First to you, President Nagawa. Again, thanks. In as clear terms as you can, I wonder if you would contrast your experience with China versus the Western powers. Do you think that Zimbabwe and other African countries, to be totally blunt, get a better deal from Chinese investment than they have with Western powers over the past 150 years?
Well, my view is that initially, as we became independent, we had most of our development thrust was from the West. But as we evolved, we have also benefited from investment and cooperation from countries like China.
But the basic structure seems the same. Foreign powers extract mineral wealth from various African countries. But do you think that the arrangement that Zimbabwe and other countries currently have with China is better or worse for Zimbabwe than it was under, say, the Brits?
I think the premises upon which you construct your question, I don't think is perfect.
Not surprised.
Yes, Zimbabwe is a sovereign state.
Yes.
You understand? And we move on the basis that gives us the best results of our resources. Whether it is relation with the West or the East, what is primarily important is what we ourselves as Zimbabweans are satisfied with. We don't need to please the West or please the East. We please ourselves.
Good. That seems like a good model for every sovereign country. President Bio, thank you for this. Do you think that there is a substantial difference? I'm just trying to understand from a Western perspective how the East does business in Africa versus how the West does, and it may be too sensitive a topic really even to talk about out loud, but to the extent you have a view you can share, would you?
I'm sure relations cannot be measured country by country.
Yes.
Relations depend on the historical background of countries between one country and another.
Yes.
That's the basis on which relations grow and are nurtured. For us in Zimbabwe, yes, we are a former British colony, but we are very happy with the relations that have now developed with, say, countries like China and so on.
Yes.
Despite being a former British colony.
I think this maybe one of these topics is too difficult to talk about in public, so let me just ask you, President Nagawa, I wonder what lessons you've been in the government of Zimbabwe for decades in various roles, including through a very turbulent period where your predecessor famously kicked out the whites and then the economy tanked and now it's rising again. I wonder if you would summarize the lessons that your country has learned from that experience.
I'm not so sure what you have in mind. But let me say, our economy has faced challenges. I'm sure you're aware.
Yes.
Zimbabwe has been under sanctions for decades as a result of us claiming our land from the British and making ourselves independent. We seized the land and gave it to our people. So sanctions were imposed on us. But in spite of all that constraint we have developed, and we are happy that we have developed on our own, and we feel very independent.
Well, some of the land was seized from people who were born there. So I wonder if there's a lesson about targeting people on the basis of their skin color. Do you think?
I don't hear you.
Well, people had their land seized in Zimbabwe who were born in Zimbabwe, and they were targeted on the basis of their race, and I wonder if you think that's good or bad.
No. Land did not belong to a race. They
right?
belong to
That's right.
Zimbabweans. So when the colonialists took land from us, time came when we asserted ourselves, take back our land. And those who wanted to have land at the same basis as the African people of Zimbabwe remained. But those who felt they were superior left.
Okay. President Nagawa, what did you think of what happened in Venezuela last month?
Venezuela is very far away from Zimbabwe.
Yes, it is. yes, sir.
Just a place.
But I wonder. I still wonder, as a head of state, a longtime head of state, what you thought of that. I mean, you must pay attention to what happens to other heads of state.
Yeah, but I don't know what we really read in Zimbabwe actually happens in Venezuela, but from what we read, we are interested to know why it is happening.